In October 2018, Kohei Onishi, the current deputy editor-in-chief of Weekly Shonen Jump, participated in a radio interview for the magazine's 50th anniversary. One of the things brought up in that interview was the lack of female editors in Jump, with Jump not having any female editors ever at the time. Along with this, other accounts have allegedly said that women could be editors in Jump. However, and to quote, "It's not without precedent, but you have to understand the hearts of boys." A response which for many is pretty vague, and over the last few years has stirred up a lot of conversation about female editors in Jump, female authors, and sexism within the manga industry. And some of you might be thinking, well, why is this important? It's just manga, surely the authors are more important, and there's been plenty of successful female authors in Jump. Just look at Gotoge, who created the record-breaking Kimetsu no Yaiba. And it's true, there are a lot of big female authors in the magazine's history, but editors are important too. They assist and guide the authors of Jump. And while I don't know the nuances of how Jump works internally, on a basic human level, equality is important. Having people with varied ideas and outlooks is important too. Gender doesn't matter when we're talking about understanding the hearts of boys, which sounds like a silly statement to make, but the many female Shonen Jump authors who found success likely grew up with the magazine, taking inspiration from what they love, and then they go on to make the next new big shonen hit. I'll continue to use Kimetsu no Yaiba as an example, it being something I feel is very in tune with its shonen roots and is a huge success for the magazine. If anything understood the hearts of boys, it would be the magazine's biggest success, right? Gotoge stated in a 2016 interview that Bleach, Naruto, and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure are her 3 biggest influences, all Shonen Jump manga written by men. Despite being a female author, her main character is Tanjiro, a boy, one who a lot of people are fans of. The same can be said for Zenitsu and Inosuke too. My point overall here is that Shonen Jump's most successful manga ever, which takes inspiration from 3 of the magazine's other most successful series ever, featuring a male-centered cast, was written by a woman. And I think it's safe to say she understands the heart of boys. Some people might hand-wave the quote entirely, but I think there's some merit to it. To me, the heart of boys exists in a way, more so to describe the overall feeling of the manga that presides in Jump. I just think it's a bad quote to explain that idea. Many Jump manga have a certain feel to them, a certain energy that surrounds how they're written, what tropes they use, and what influences them, usually other Shonen Jump manga. This isn't something I think that comes naturally to a specific gender, just to fans of the magazine, to people who've read a lot of shonen manga, and Jump specifically. And I think anybody and everybody should have the right to enjoy reading Shonen Jump. I think that should be the same for getting a job in Jump too, be it author or editor. As long as you're passionate and understand the series, you should be able to contribute to Jump. I came to originally think about this video when a Reddit thread on r/characterant popped up on Manga Crash's Discord server. Check him out, by the way, he has some great videos on Jump. The thread is written by user Simone3344555, going over the same thing we've been covering basically, the lack of female editors in Jump and the sexism surrounding Shonen Jump manga. And while this isn't a deep dive into this thread specifically, it is what sparked the idea for this video, and I do tend to agree with them. I think there is sexist aspects to Shonen Jump, and a female editor could help with that. But I also know, as a big fan of Shonen Jump, who's reading everything in the magazine, things are a lot better than they used to be. I'd like to go through the current lineup of Jump and discuss what they're doing right and wrong. But before that, I want to address the idea that Shonen Jump manga have poorly written female characters. I'm going to be generalizing here, but try to stay with me. People will often just point to the big 3, specifically Sakura from Naruto, and say shonen female characters suck. And I'm not going to dogpile on Sakura, I actually like her a lot. She isn't perfect though, as her agency is often squandered, or she's used solely to prop up male characters, which is a common thing that happens in all type of media sadly. Instead of going for the low-hanging fruit, I'd like to generally talk about a few manga throughout Jump's history. You can imagine the 60s and 70s weren't the best place for female characters. A lot of gag manga, specifically ecchi gag manga, don't seem to treat female characters with much respect, which were very popular at the time. Harenchi Gakuen being the forerunner for these types of series, and you can just kind of tell how it treats its female cast based on the covers, although I haven't read it all, so take this with a pinch of salt. It's not all despair though, as Otoko Ipiki Gaki Daisho, Jump's first face of the magazine, from what I've read has a few strong female characters, which surprised me because the manga originated from the late 60s. Mito Masai is a major antagonist of the series and a character who moves the plot forward. She's characterized as strong and respected, a businesswoman too. And in chapter 52, a character called Ayumi is introduced who aims to make Mankichi fall for her so she can gain ownership over his holdings. And while I don't see this coming to pass, here we have another smart lady who wants to use the main character for their own gains. In other words, a girl boss, and from the early 70s as well. Moving onward throughout history, we also have Masumi Kurumada's early series, who's known for Saint Seiya. First we have Sukeban Arashi, having a female protagonist and antagonist, which I think I remember being fairly well written. Following this, we have the character Kiku Takane, who is the main character's sister in Ring ni Kakero. At the beginning, she's the driving force of the manga and prompts the main character to get stronger. She literally holds the manga together at points and is physically stronger than a lot of the male cast, at the beginning at least. Those are some good early examples of well-written female characters that surprised me. It isn't all great though, as ecchi and gag manga would use fairly sexist female jokes for decades to come. Flipping skirts, boys sneaking into bathrooms or showers, selling girls' pictures, things like this. A recent read in Masanori Morita's Rookies does come to mind, with a reoccurring gag being the stairwell, where a group of boys camp underneath to see under girls' skirts. This is a tamer example of things, but you get the general gist of the jokes I mean from this. Rookies overall is a bit of an odd series as it has some of these elements that are played for laughs, but it's also clear that the main characters are delinquents. They're meant to be flawed and bad people, but the whole idea of the manga is they get better with the help of their teacher. Overall, I think Rookies highlights some bad masculine ideas, but in the end, the students change to be better people, and the manga itself distances from some of these sexist jokes. So far, most of the authors of these manga are men, so I want to look at a female author, the creator of Hitman Reborn, Akira Amano. Some of the same pitfalls are seen in Hitman Reborn, with the female cast being underutilized. They spend most of their time cleaning, cooking, and looking after younger characters like Lambo. They're either doing this or they're worrying about the central male cast, powerless to do anything to help them. It's honestly comical how blatant this is, especially within the Future arc, where there are entire panels dedicated to this idea of the female characters not being able to do anything other than cooking or cleaning. How they handle one of the characters who does fight, Chrome, is also incredibly sketchy and disgusting. Her relationship with Mukuro is weird, with Chrome being devoted to him despite him being horrible to her and essentially using her for the majority of the series. A later battle in the Future arc also objectifies her to an extent I don't think is necessary, even if you want to make the villain seem bad. After this, she's stuck in a hospital bed, unable to do things for dozens of chapters. It's honestly some of the worst female character writing and treatment I've seen, and Hitman Reborn shows it's not something exclusive to male writers. It goes deeper than that. Either there was a lack of thought being put into the female characters, or persistent sexist tropes that have surrounded shonen manga for years are to blame. I'm happy to say though, I think over time things have gotten better, and currently Jump is in a good place when it comes to its female representation, which we'll go into now, manga by manga. One Piece, being the oldest, has a lot of potentially sexist ground to cover, and while Oda is guilty of a fair number of sexist or weird remarks, I'll defend his big booby characters as a style and preference decision. I won't defend Sanji though, whose main gag really drags him down. Him being one of my favourite characters, his gag is just not something funny at all to me and has sexist undertones. To compensate though, there's a lot of cool girls in One Piece, and I think for shonen manga standards, it's done an okay job at being respectful over the years, and might be slowly improving. My Hero Academia is a manga I have few complaints with in regards to being sexist. There's some seriously badass female heroes like Miruko. You could perhaps critique the designs being overly sexualized though, but I feel like this could be roped into superhero stuff in general. At the very least, the manga does give its female characters some agency and spotlights, the recent Ochako and Toga section being an example. Black Clover does have a few girls fawning over Asta, but usually they're depicted well, Noelle in particular being a favourite of mine and having a really solid arc. Overall, I don't remember it for disrespecting its female characters. Jujutsu Kaisen I think is even better, with characters being on par regardless of gender. People of all walks of life are shown to be good jujutsu sorcerers, with the manga tackling the topic of sexism within the story with Maki and Mai. Yozakura family has a great balance of characters. If anything, it sexualizes its male cast more too. I'm looking at Kengo, where we get a feminine pretty boy who likes manicures and is all about disguises and beauty essentially. I think subverting gender norms like this is great. Futaba, Mitsumi, and Shion are all depicted as strong in their own ways, each with different personalities and ways of tackling problems. I think Gondaira overall has done an excellent job here. Undead Unluck has a bit of a rocky beginning, but goes on to feature some of the best female characters in Jump. I'm looking at Fuko predominantly, who isn't very powerful or confident at the beginning, but grows immensely strong throughout the series, in battle and as a person. Even though some tropes are used, like Andy having to save Fuko, we're now into an arc where she takes the reins, and to me it doesn't feel like a sexist part of the story, but a fun twist of the narrative. Other strong characters include Juiz, Ishin, Mui, and Tatiana. Me and Roboko, from what I remember, doesn't really rely on any sexist gags. The female cast is shown as having a range of talents and jokes, just like the boys. Roboko herself is a female lead too, who's pretty strong and a funny character in her own way. I don't see much wrong here. Sakamoto Days has a lot of strong female assassins, and while I feel somewhat underutilized like Lu, we have more and more being added who are shown to be incredibly competent and cool, like Osaragi and the new Kuma no Mi. I'm gonna skip Elusive Samurai, with me not being too confident about it. It seems fine, and my problems with it are a bit more general anyway. Let me know what you think about it in the comments though, if you've read it. Witch Watch has a main female character in Nico, who is the most powerful by far, and is really well rounded. Her relationship with Moi is also well handled and well written. There are plenty of other great female characters and villains too. Overall, it's excellent. Blue Box is fairly standard when it comes to your boy-girl romance, which is fine. It's well written and I feel like the female characters are treated with respect. Plus there's no ecchi jokes in it, so it does well and features another female lead for the magazine. Akane Banashi is where I think we're seeing incredible progress, through Akane being our solitary female lead for the series, who is a great nuanced character. It also has already touched on the sexism within the rakugo industry, and has a great respect towards its female cast so far. Other great characters include Urara and Hikaru. I'll also mention Kaisei, who breaks conventions by being a more feminine character, especially in his rakugo performances where it's his signature trait. I don't have much to say about the Ichinose family. Everyone is given a spotlight, and it seems to be tackling the ideas of what a traditional family is, perhaps also questioning traditionally gendered family roles. We'll have to wait and see. Cypher Academy, aside from Iroha, has an all-female cast, with Iroha himself being very feminine presenting. Perhaps there's an underlying sexist attitude in its construction, it being an all-girls school with one boy, but in general its characters are all different and depicted as strong and capable. Fabricant 100 has a female co-protagonist or antagonist. It's had a number of female characters, all portrayed fairly well. Tenmaku Cinema only really has Kurai right now, but she's depicted as a beautiful and talented actress. It's not breaking gender norms or anything, but it's also not made any ecchi jokes, which is surprising since this comes from the author of Food Wars. So far, so good. Kill Blue is a bit iffy, having the whole plot revolve around marrying Noren and using her essentially to get the wealth of her father's company. It does however have a self-awareness to it to an extent, but it is walking a fine line. I do like how it's trying to establish the home ec club though, as it's presenting the skills it teaches as useful for anyone regardless of gender. Ogami learning how to cook and clean is also him being a more well-rounded person. Slowly his old man attitude might change for the better. I'm holding out hope for this one. Dorotry has mostly shown its female characters to be weak, although they are little girls. The Yakuza boss though is an important and cool exception, as effectively she's the most powerful and influential character in the series up to this point. Nue is frankly a mess in general. If there's any manga in Jump right now that you would think would perpetuate sexism, it's this one, as it's becoming a weird type of ecchi over time. That said, I'd like to take a moment to say ecchi manga in general is okay and can be well done, and I don't want to stop people from enjoying them. Overall, I don't think it's the worst offender, as most of the female cast are shown to be strong and have agency. They mostly just use the main character anyway, but we'll see where this one goes. Icehead Gil and Martial Arts Master Asumi are both fairly new, but haven't demonstrated anything problematic yet, I think. The female characters they have introduced have been treated with respect and seem strong so far. And there's every manga in Jump currently covered. I think right now it's in a much better place than people might think it is. This is a complicated and delicate topic overall, and I'm sure someone could pick apart everything I've said here, but I want this video to lead to one simple idea. We should be kind to each other, regardless of gender or how we present ourselves, and our media should reflect that too. We should be mindful and kind in how we portray different characters. It can be hard to sit back and realize we're perpetuating bad attitudes, ideas, and stereotypes sometimes, but overall I think we're getting better and kinder. This is about creating stories and characters that people can enjoy, that are well-rounded and overall well-written. This is a different type of video, tackling a topic that's much heavier than usual, one that's pretty important too. I'm knowledgeable about Jump specifically, and I wanted to tackle this with what knowledge I have and some heart. Kindness is important, and I think that's the approach this needs. We need to listen to each other and really ask ourselves if some jokes, depictions, and tropes are problematic or disrespectful. We also need to look at what we have now, what's being serialized. Currently, I see Jump improving, and I think we should focus on praising things like Akane bin Ashi and how it's doing things right. We can't change the past manga that have serialized in Jump. They've already been written, but we can take heed of what worked with them and what didn't to make even better manga in the future that everyone can enjoy and feel happy reading. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry if I got anything incorrect or did somehow cause some offense. I really don't mean to. I'm trying my best to be respectful to everyone here. My general stance on Jump right now is that I don't think it's very sexist. It might have been in the past, but the whole video I made is essentially talking about how it's improving. If you're looking for something more lighthearted after this, you can check out my History of Shonen Jump series. You can also find me on Twitter at TrentinArt, where I post my thoughts on manga and sometimes draw. Again, thank you for watching, be kind to each other, and take care.